Okay, let's start with the obvious question. Why would one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history decide to play another season after what looked like a brutal, almost poetic end to his playoff run? If you watched Aaron Rodgers get carted off the field after that pick six against the Texans, looking pale and defeated, you probably assumed that was it. But here we are. And the real story isn't just about football, it's about redemption, nostalgia, and the weird ways people reconnect when time starts running out. Let me break this down. First, let's talk about that playoff game. Rodgers was sick. Not just a little sniffly, full-on fever, vomiting, looking like he'd been through a meat grinder. And yet, he played. Now, in my opinion, this is where the narrative gets twisted. We glorify this tough-it-out mentality in sports, but here's the thing. This wasn't a heroic flu game moment like Jordan in '97. It was a perfect storm of bad timing and stubborn pride. Rodgers himself downplayed it, but his former OC Arthur Smith basically said, yeah, he was a mess. So why does this matter? Because it shows how much we overlook when we romanticize athletes' durability. We are so obsessed with the warrior trope that we ignore the human cost. And for a guy like Rodgers, who's built his legacy on control and precision, ending like that. That's a scar that doesn't heal quietly. Now, enter Mike McCarthy. The guy who got fired by Rodgers' old team in 2018, leading to a years-long Cold War. The irony here is delicious. These two had a relationship so fractured that they couldn't even have a proper goodbye. And yet, here they are, reunited in Pittsburgh. What changed? Well, Rodgers spent 2 years in New York, dealing with Jets' dysfunction so extreme it made him nostalgic for the Packers' stability. And McCarthy. He was out of football in 2025, staring down retirement. So when Pittsburgh's GM dropped Tomlin and the door opened for McCarthy, Rodgers basically said, hey, why not give the old guy a shot? And that's where the real story kicks in. This isn't just about football strategy, it's about closure. For both men, this is a chance to rewrite the ending of a partnership that never got a proper finale. McCarthy gets to coach his masterpiece with a Hall of Famer, and Rodgers gets to play in an offense he basically wrote the playbook for. It's poetic. But also, a little desperate. Because let's be honest, neither of them has a ton of time left. McCarthy's 62, Rodgers is 42. This is their last dance. But here's the twist I didn't expect, Brittani. Rodgers' wife, who's somehow stayed out of the spotlight until now. According to him, she's the one who nudged him toward reconciling with his family after years of estrangement. And that, to me, is the most fascinating detail. We are so used to seeing athletes find themselves through spirituality or philanthropy, but Rodgers found his reset through a woman who literally changed his life. Not in a cheesy, she's my rock way, but in a she made me confront the past kind of way. That's rare. And it's not just about family, this openness, this willingness to reconnect with McCarthy, it's all part of the same arc. His closing loops. Which makes me wonder, how often do we underestimate the role of personal relationships in athletic performance? Because if Brittani's influence helped mend fences with his parents and brought him back for another season with McCarthy, that's not just a love story, it's a masterclass in how emotional stability can extend a career. Now, let's zoom out. The NFL is a league that's obsessed with youth. Coordinators in their 30s, QBs on their rookie deals, coaches hired straight out of the Shanahan-McVay coaching tree. But McCarthy? He's 62, running an offense rooted in West Coast principles that feel almost vintage. And Rodgers? At 42, he's relying on his mind more than his arm. So this whole reunion feels like a rebellion against the league's current trends. In my view, that's what makes it compelling. It's not just about nostalgia, it's about proving that experience still matters. That relationships built over decades can't be replaced by analytics or the latest gadget offense. And if you take a step back, isn't that kind of the opposite of what the Jets sold Rodgers on? New York was chaos. Pittsburgh, under McCarthy, is comfort food. And for a guy who's seen it all, comfort might be the only thing left that feels fresh. So where does this leave us? With a story about endings and second chances. Rodgers and McCarthy are trying to tie up loose ends in a league that usually chews people up and spits them out. But here's the thing, the NFL doesn't do full circle moments often. Usually, careers end in injuries or benchings, not fairy tales. But if there's any duo that could pull it off, it's these two. Because let's face it, Rodgers' legacy was already secure. McCarthy's too. What they are chasing now isn't hardware. It's peace. And maybe that's the real twist. Maybe this wasn't about football at all. Maybe it was about finding a way to say goodbye on their own terms. Which raises the question, what's your take? Do you root for these veteran comebacks, or do you think the league should make room for the next generation? Let me know in the comments, because I'm personally obsessed with how sports stories like this blur the line between competition and human connection.